people get paralyzed on perfection in their business rather than delivering products.
You've got a $1.4 million e-commerce business, and you've done this while working, doing a law degree, raising 5 kids. How the did this guy do this?
I've learnt to say no. When you say yes to everything, you're saying no to something else. And that no is often yourself or your family.
Today we're speaking to Craig Anderson, who's built a $1.4 million e-commerce business with 5 kids and a law degree in the background, all part-time. Craig unpacks today how he got started, what you could do if you were looking to start an e-commerce business with $10,000 in the bank and 10 hours up your sleeve. We deep dive into all the tactics, the things to look out in how Craig got started and how he scaled that business. Craig unpacked a lot of detail, gave some awesome tips, practical steps that you can do, all the way from a novice to someone who's actually scaling their business. Check it out, and we look forward to hearing it in the comments. Welcome to Unemployable Business. My name's Nick Rakis. I've been a client with the coaching community for 2 years, and I run a strategy consulting firm based in Melbourne, working with some of the biggest government and enterprise clients across the country. And I'm here with Perry and Craig today. I'll let them introduce themselves.
G'day. I am Perry. I'm one of the owners of Unemployable Media and multiple business owner within the Unemployable branches. You may see me on shorts and everything like that. And if you see me, just give me a dislike. It helps the algorithm. We've got over here, Craig.
Yeah, Craig here. I'm an unemployable coaching client. My background's in accounting and e-commerce, and I've had 5 different businesses. I've sold 2 of them, and I'm also doing accounting and coaching at the moment as well.
Awesome. All right, thanks for joining. So let's get straight into this. I think I want to paint a picture with someone that's probably on the other side of that camera. You know, Sarah, she's a primary school teacher, 2 kids, making $75K a year. Sarah's got $10,000 saved in her bank account, and she's dreaming about an e-commerce store. And everyone's telling her, quit your job, jump straight in. She's got 2 kids, she's got a mortgage, and she's just thinking
that. Yeah, she can't be doing that.
No.
If she starts doing that, and how's she going to pay for her kids? How's she going to pay for the mortgage? What should she be doing?
Yeah, and so I want to take it to what you've done, Craig. So you've got a $1.4 million e-commerce business, and you've done this, you know, in between things while working, doing a law degree, and you're raising 5 kids. It's 5 kids, yeah?
Yeah, it is 5.
Okay.
I got some help with it. My wife's amazing, so good on her.
And you did it, yes, you started full-time, but you also did that part-time. And so what I want to get a sense today is, you know, for someone like Sarah that's thinking about getting started, how can she avoid those mistakes? And my first, probably to kick you off, is how did the e-commerce thing start? And just tell us a little bit about that. And then I'd love to connect that to what does Sarah need to do to think about getting started?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the e-commerce business is my 3rd business. And I don't want that to put Sarah off, but we'll come back to how that can help. So I had an accounting practice before that, had a water cooler rental business after that. And then I had started the e-commerce business. I started that by purchasing a course. It's about $3,500. And this is the key that I think for Sarah or anyone else in that situation is to bridge the knowledge gap from being an employee to becoming a business owner. I've done that twice, actually. I started as an accountant working in businesses. So I started as accounts payable person, stamping invoices, data entry into the computer, and then I worked my way up to a financial controller role. But I had an entrepreneurial itch that needed scratching. But I knew I needed to increase my skills to go out and start my own accounting practice, because there's a slight different skill between being an accountant within a business and an accountant in your own practice. So I actually quit my job, took almost a half pay cut and to go and work as a tax accountant somewhere so I could upskill myself to then go and start my business.
Yeah.
And that's the skill, that's the key that Sarah and others need to know, is that you need to bridge that skill gap from where you are to where you want to be. You can learn slowly yourself, but in my experience, it's best to pay for someone else's mistakes. You'll get there faster.
Yeah. Okay. So just to kind of unpack that, I'm sure Nick will go deeper on this as well. So let's go from the beginning, right? You're going, oh, I've got an itch. I want to do something else, and we're going to use e-commerce as the vehicle for this one.
Sure.
What made you go, okay, I want to do e-commerce? Like where's that? Because a lot of people right now, they're going, I want to do something else. I don't know what to do. How did you go from 0 to I'm going to choose this, and then the step from that?
Yeah, so my reason for going into e-commerce is my second business I had, the water cooler rental business, was a licensee arrangement.
Okay.
Similar to a franchise, I had a geographic restriction and I had a product restriction. I could only buy certain products from the licensor, and I was limited to a certain geographic area, and that frustrated me no end. Even though I've got an accounting background, I feel like I'm quite creative, and I didn't like the restriction of being stuck in one location. So that's why I wanted to get into e-commerce. The world is your geography,
Yeah.
and you can choose any product that you want. So it was unlimited in opportunity and scope. I also thought from a diversification point of view, if I could get into 2 markets, then I can diversify against the economies and the sovereign risk or the government risk in different locations. So I was trying to diversify my business.
So, sorry, go on, Nick.
No, I was going to say, so you talk about education being, a good starting point because someone like Sarah needs to get the lessons quickly so she doesn't make that mistake.
Yeah.
How does someone like that think about that? Because a lot of people will say $3,000, $5,000, whatever the amount is a lot of money. How did you think about that? And how did you go about finding the education? Because someone might say, well, there's a million things out there. How do I pick the right one?
Yeah.
So just getting a sense of how did you think from a mindset perspective about the money, but then also how did you go about choosing?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I decided, because I've made mistakes in the past. When I started my accounting business, I thought that I would do well in it. And it did go well at the start. But there's an old book by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth. And he basically says that just because you are a good technician, let's say a good plumber, doesn't mean you can run a plumbing business. And there's extra skills that you need to learn as a business owner that you don't have just by having the technical skills of the business that you do. And so I struggled after a couple of years in my accounting practice. And it wasn't until I got a business coach that I started enjoying business and I wanted to stay in it. And so I learnt then that I'm better to pay for someone else's mistakes and fast track my success rather than stumble through it myself.
Okay, so let's use this as an example then. Right now, you're the business coach. You've already got the experience, right?
Yeah.
What do I do first? I want to go into e-commerce, right? And I want to find a product, right? There is a ton of products out there. What do I do?
Yeah, it's the education gap of buying a course. That's what I would do. That's what I did. And I learned from someone who'd got in the weeds of it.
What would you do right now if I'm going to, hey, how do I find a product?
Yes.
Where would you go?
Where would I go? Where would I tell you to go?
Well, where would you go?
Where would I go? Look, having been to the Canton Fair twice, and it's a bit of a stretch if you can
What is the
afford it.
Canton Fair?
Yeah, great. So the Canton Fair is probably the world's biggest fair. It's in the Canton region of China, in Guangzhou, southern China. Twice a year they hold these massive fairs. They have 3 phases in each part of the year that cover any product basically you can think of, from tractors to motorbikes to push bikes to toys. And there's tens of thousands of vendors and people there, and you can just go and see what's the latest. You can source products, anything that you need. You can go face to face with factories. It's the next level up from going to Alibaba.
And let's pull on that thread.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say that you've got, what was the lady's name? Sarah has got 50-hour weeks at the moment, right? She's got 10 hours that she can put onto an e-commerce business. She can't go to the Canton Fair right now. So she goes to Alibaba. First of all, what is Alibaba, and what is on Alibaba that she can then find a product?
Sure. Look, many people have heard of, say, AliExpress or Temu.
Yeah.
That's the retail version of those factories.
Right.
Alibaba's kind of like the B2B version of e-commerce. There's usually MOQs, or minimum order quantities, with factories on Alibaba. You have to buy a minimum amount to deal with them.
Yeah.
But it's a marketplace which will connect you with not all, but most suppliers in China.
What's a starting point, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it gives you the opportunity to basically go, hey, I've got an idea for a product. Is that product actually there? To then go, how do we find that? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think maybe if we lift this up, so you've got, the education's a big component there. That there are, what you're saying with Alibaba and these places is there are marketplaces
Yes.
that people can go to actually explore these products.
Right now.
Yeah. They're available. They can talk with merchants on the other side of that marketplace. There's obviously the detail there. If I lift this up a little bit and I think, okay, we'll get granular, but we're also looking big picture. What are some of the lessons that you've had growing this business? You've done $1.4 million. What are 2 or 3 things that you think, if you were in Sarah's position earlier on and you were giving yourself advice, what would the 2 or 3 things be? That we can start with one, that you go, hey, this is actually a really important lesson that I had to learn the hard way in what I've done with e-commerce to get it to where I am now. Because 1.4 million would just seem impossible to someone starting.
Yeah.
And so I want to bring it back to maybe an anecdote of how you got there and maybe a big lesson that you had to overcome.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of ways to go about it. You can have an idea and develop a product from scratch, but that's slow and expensive. So what I would suggest is picking a niche that you know something about, or that you see a gap in, and then pick some products to fill it, and pick 5 products.
Okay.
Right. And get 100 of each and put them up on Facebook Marketplace or even a quick website. In AI, you can build a website within hours and see what the market says. It's cheap. And people think, oh, I'm going to waste money on it. You're not wasting money. You're doing market research.
Market research, 100%.
Yeah. So you can get, let's say, a minimum of 100 products. Let's say it costs you $2 each. So 200 times 5, $1,000 of stock, and you could test 5 products. You see which the market wants, and then you focus on that. And that's how we ended up with our current brand and products, Throne Boss, is that I saw a gap in the market. We made some tweaks to a product, we put it out there, and the market said yes.
Can I just pull on that thread as well? So you've literally gone, okay, there are a place where I can find products, right? There are already marketplaces out there that I can put these products on. I can get, $2 a product and then maybe put the price up for $10, something like that. So you're making a profit or breaking even. And just by doing that, you have now sold a product and filled a gap in your knowledge of how do I even sell a product?
Yeah.
And how long could that take someone to do to get from 0 to 1?
So you're probably looking at, even if it's a product that a factory on Alibaba already sells, they're probably going to take at best 20 to 30 days to manufacture that product. They don't sit products on the shelf in the factories in China. They make to order, because stock sitting on the shelf, it's not turning over for them. So within 30 days, you could have your stock available in China. Depending on how aggressive you want to be, you could air freight that in, but that's expensive. So I'd suggest shipping it in by sea freight, which is about another 30 days, but it's cheap as chips to ship by sea freight. So within 2 months, once you've chosen the product, in that 2-month time period, you're building your website and your socials and other things that you need to brand your product to speak to your customer. In 2 months, you could have some product live that you're testing, that you're finding out, is it something that someone wants to buy?
And there you go. And just to touch on because I've got plenty of friends like Sarah, and so they'll hear niche, website, AI, like it's
flown over, right?
and I've got a background in this. I do market research, and so I think, and tell me whether you agree with this. Like, one thing that I would suggest for someone to Sarah to do is to pay attention around the things that she likes, or the things that she has a nuance in. Sarah might be like, I really like bathrooms, and I'm very particular about certain things in a bathroom. And then I would say one of the ways to find a gap or thing is find something that you like, but then also find something that you've got an interest in or a particular lens on. And then it's the gap is the creativity. It's like, what's missing here? What can I start to put together? And when you say a gap, is that what you mean? Like, just,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a niche is a certain type of area that you're looking at, and I agree. Work with what you know, because then you are the customer avatar you're trying to speak to. An avatar is the type of person. It's a mum or a dad with ADHD who's got or kids with ADHD as an example, that might be a niche that you want to target because you've got kids with ADHD, or you someone in your mother's group does, or whatever. And so, at the start, I would say work with what you know, see what's not being filled within what you know, think about how you buy as a customer avatar, and fill that with a product.
A great piece of advice I always say to people is, if you want to know what gaps there are in products that you like, is look at 3-star reviews of products on Amazon and stuff like that, because 5-star always says, I love this product. 1-star says, I didn't get my product. 3-star says, I like this product, but I wish it had XYZ. Hey, XYZ could be what you change that product to be, and then you've done a market fit.
Love it. Yeah, that's a great way to upskill your market research, is to going through and reading reviews.
So you touched on a few things around, you said it quickly. So you said, you can go look for products. There's minimum order quantities because I don't hold stuff in China. You could buy a small amount, $500, $1,000, whatever you can do. And while you're waiting for that product to come, you can get yourself organized. And so I guess my thing is thinking even simpler for someone like Sarah. It might be like, maybe a website feels overwhelming. Maybe she's never done any of that. Is there anything simpler? Like, can she go to eBay? Can she go and go to Facebook Marketplace? Can she go to a group to start testing? And maybe even talk about, what the hell do we mean by testing? Yeah, because people are like, what are you talking about? Am I selling something that doesn't exist? That sounds unethical. Like, how do we do this? So
guys, got to just preface, we're talking to a guy that's got a $1.4 million Amazon or online business, and this is not the first one. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've sort of forgotten the question.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, like, if we think a website is maybe a bit complicated, what's a simpler way to test that you would, if you did this tomorrow, the cheapest of chips that you would want to test in market? What are some ways that maybe you would look at doing it?
Yeah, the way I did test our current product is on Marketplace.
Okay, cool.
So I brought it in. Fortunately, I already had good images and infographics from... I'd already started in Amazon USA, and then I was deciding whether to start in Australia. So having good graphics of your product, good photos of your product is essential. And with AI software and 3D modeling software, which you can go on Upwork, which we could talk about, that you could pay for someone to do, I'd say that's the number one thing is before you get onto Marketplace, is make sure your product looks $1 million, that people can see it clearly, that it stands out against the competition, because people purchase with their eyes these days. They don't read a lot of what you put, they purchase with their eyes. If you've got great photos, and an infographic is a photo that has text on it that tells you what's going on in that product. We've all seen
benefits or
benefits, dimensions. Benefits are better because it's about how it helps the person rather than what it does. If you've got good photos and infographics, you can put it on Marketplace, and Marketplace will tell you if people want it.
So let's say, and how would you do the research for like doing good photo? Because again, I've been there in the space where I've been like, well, how do I make a good photo? Do I just take a picture and then put it up, or is there like places I can go, hey, I could copy that, and then it would make I'm just follow that platform that they've already done it?
Yeah, you've nailed it. Look at a competitor's product. It doesn't have to be the direct product, but something that's in the similar niche or area that you're looking at. And it might be a different product. Look how the best in the market are photographing and using their infographics, and just mirror that for your product.
So would you think like maybe like just Etsy, Amazon, like where would you find those photos?
Look, I think Amazon is the best place because it's the hardest marketplace to compete on, and you've got to be at your best if you want to succeed on Amazon. It's a beast of a platform, and if you're not, it's sharpened up my skills as a business owner, because I had to really work hard to compete, because you're competing with sellers at a lower price. You're competing with people all around the world for attention on Amazon.
So what you're saying is Facebook Marketplace is more of an ad hoc, people throw stuff up.
Yeah, it's the amateur zone.
Yeah, so you're saying that if you literally got Amazon images and put them on Facebook Marketplace to test, right, you are probably going to sell more just for the fact that you are, again, you're going this level of images versus amateur.
Absolutely.
Images.
And I think that's
interesting.
Partly why we're doing well in Australia on our own website is because we've sharpened our skills on Amazon USA because we've had to survive and compete there. And that's like anything in business and life. We sharpen our skills, we polish our skills as we bump up against competition and difficulties, and that's how we get better. We don't get better in our comfort zones. We get better when we're stretched and pushed upon.
So can I change? I'll change the angle. I think one thing that's on my mind when we spoke was, you've done this. Yes, you've had different businesses and some full time, some part time. But one thing that I don't think we talk enough about is time. And so Sarah's got 10 hours a week. Most of us have got a lot to do and we don't have enough time. And I was very intrigued when I saw part-time. I know that wasn't all part-time, law degree, 5 kids. And I was like, I got 3 kids. How did this guy do this? And so I don't think that's something we talk enough about. And I think whether that's a discipline, whether that's routine, what is it that you can share that's worked for you around that every person on the other side of that camera that's got 40, 50-hour weeks, kids, everyone's competing with stuff where the answer is I don't have time. What's maybe some things that you've put in place for you that you think have really helped you?
Yeah, so for the e-commerce business, I worked probably 18 months full-time in it to get it up to speed. My goal is to make myself redundant in any business that I'm in by setting up a system and outsourcing that system to a software or a person. And so I was able to do that after a while with this e-commerce brand, and it was only taking about 10 hours a week to manage it. So I decided to do a law degree, but that's we can go into that detail another time. But in terms of managing time, I manage a calendar well. I block out time. I plan to do when I do things, and I put them in a calendar and I stick to it most of the time. So I block out time for study, and when I was doing the degree, I'd block out time to work on the business. I'd make sure I had family time in there. I was also a part-time pastor at that time.
Oh, another thing.
Well,
All right, just keep adding them, mate.
Just make us feel
I look back and I don't know how I did it during that time, but it's just having the discipline to time blocking in a calendar. Time blocking, if you're familiar with that principle.
Yeah. Well, can I just put on that flip, Greg? Like, let's say Sarah's got 10 hours, right? Kind of in an ad hoc way. How would you time block 10 hours to get the first product out?
Sure. It would depend on Sarah's schedule, if she had a spouse that's helping with the kids as well, or whether she needs to do it around those kids. But let's say single mum with 2 kids, the most difficult
way
possible, right? So you would chunk time together. Half an hour here and there. You don't get into the groove enough. You want to have sort of 2 to 3 hour blocks. So you might pick a day of the week or a couple of days a week. You might do 2 hours in the morning before the kids get up, or after they go to bed. If they're younger, they go to bed earlier, which is a good thing. Teenagers, they're up all night. Then you would chunk time in the evening, sort of 2 or 3 hour blocks together, and just put that in your calendar. And then one thing I've learnt to say is no.
Okay.
And I learnt that the hard way. When I was first in business, I said yes to everything. Like you say yes to every client.
Yeah,
you
I can do that.
Yes to, because you're building a business, you don't want to disappoint clients. But what I learned is that when you say yes to everything, you're saying no to something else. And that no is often yourself or your family. So you have to learn to be disciplined. And, there's things that I could have done more in my business, but I said no because my family is important to me. And
Craig, can I ask, I think, because there's the discipline side of that. I've had a lot of goals that I've said I'm going to get up for 6 a.m. and do stuff, and I've done shit. And so I'm curious, how do you think about the motivation there? And maybe motivation is the wrong word, but okay, so you can time block it in your calendar. Pretty much what you're saying is you got to try and create space before and after, essentially, around what you're doing. And I'm curious, like, what was the drive there? Like the motivation or the drive to keep you going to do that? Because a lot of people, including me, says, I want to do that. And I don't do it. And so is there anything that you've learned or anything that you think you can share that's relevant to help someone like do that, other than saying block it in your calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I have an internal drive to want to always do my best in whatever I do, and without seeking perfection in things. Perfectionism or perfection is the enemy of progress is what and that's a really important principle in business. And I know that Adam saw it and mentioned it, and I've seen it a lot, is that people get paralyzed on perfection in their business rather than delivering products or things.
The 80-20.
Yeah. And, you don't want to deliver substandard work. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about delivering something that rather than trying to perfect it.
No, I want to pull on that because there's something that's I've gotten better and better at as time's gone on, because you just get used to just getting stuff out there. And I think that people are fearful of that first time they do it, and then they put something out there, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And then they go, I could make this better. Now, instead of going, oh, I can't put it out until it's absolutely pristine, perfect. And all that happens is 3 months go by and you've never done anything with it. Whereas if you just literally put it out there, people will tell you if it's crap or not. And then you go, okay, how do I make this better?
Perfect. Like those 5 products that we talked about earlier that you put out on Marketplace with photos, you'll get feedback very quickly, and you'll get people tell you, hopefully honestly, what they like and they don't like about it. And then then you'll iterate to a product that is more fit for purpose or more fit for the market, and then you're going to have a business out of it. So, but if you try and guess what people want, you're not going to get it right anyway. So the best thing to do is to stop procrastinating, put it out there, and get the feedback and iterate.
Yeah. So, and then just to go back to the time blocking, right? So let's say, Sarah, week 1, 10 hours of market research, right? Go out there in your niche, and the niche is that area that you like, and go on Alibaba and find 5 products that are of a low cost that you can get over, right?
Yeah.
That should be the first week.
Well, I'd say the first week is more understanding your niche and thinking of, and probably writing out your avatar. And this is where AI can be really helpful these days. That wasn't around really when I started. Is you could start into ChatGPT or something else, type out your niche. Let's say it's ADHD products for kids. Say I've got 2 kids, they've got ADHD or whatever it is, and these are the things they like to do and don't like to do. This is who I am and what I like to do and how I like to shop. Ask me some questions about understanding the type of avatar and the type of things that people will need. And then you'll get a little bit of feedback. And then you can go and look at places, join Facebook groups around that topic, search Amazon listings that provide products in that space. Like just in the Amazon search bar, you can put a few keywords around some products. And then you're going to start to see what's out there. So I'd say market or niche research first, understand. And then when you go onto Alibaba, you'll have a better idea of what products are missing for those avatars and marketplaces and niches.
That's awesome. I think just so maybe we touched on time boxing, creating space. We touched on product selection, avatars, thinking about where's the gap, solving that problem. You said something at the start when we kicked off, and you said, I'm an accountant, but I'm quite creative. All right. And I thought that was funny. I was like,
that's two very serious.
Well, maybe accountants are creative. I don't know. But I think what have you brought from the accounting perspective to business, whether that's the skills or the thinking? Because I think people have probably got a very specific connotation when they think accounting, they probably think tax. That's my tax return. And I think what are some skills that you've brought as an accountant into your products, into that creativity, that not only have helped you, but are really not for people to be an accountant, but it's for people to think about certain things related to business that you probably do naturally as an accountant. I'd say let's touch on that a little bit, just to see how you think about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be interested and know your numbers. Interested in and know your numbers. Any CEO is almost a qualified accountant. Many CEOs have been, because numbers mean everything. So we've talked about your niche, and then going on to Alibaba, your next step is going to be doing up a budget. Now that sounds
You lost Sarah,
difficult.
man. You
Yeah,
lost
yeah.
it. No, I'm
But I
joking.
want to explain it. All you need to do, you need to know what your costs are,
Yeah.
what you can sell it for, and know if you're making money.
Mm.
Now that's the simple way, right? So income less expenses equals your profit. You need to know, can I sell this product for this price? And is it going to make money? And you need to know that before you order anything,
Yeah.
right? Now you may price it differently to test the market, but that's a separate discussion. You need to know that in the end, it's going to make money. And any good business owner knows their numbers inside and out. And so that's something that I've brought, but anyone can learn it. You don't need to be an accountant to understand profit and loss, not a full P&L, but that your profit is your income less your expenses.
So you're saying there for someone like Sarah, don't get caught up. I'm throwing the words out and then you can correct me. Yes, be creative, find a gap. But don't fall in love just with the thing. Work backwards from whether it actually is worth it from a numbers point of view.
And a simple way, absolutely. The simple way I do that is, let's say, what do you need? She said, $2,000 a month. Let's call it that. So,
Yeah.
25 grand a year, right?
Well, to make extra money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So extra $2,000 a month. That's $2,000 profit.
Yeah.
So let's call it 25 grand a year, right? So now we need to work back from that. To get 25 grand profit, let's call it 25% margin. So your margin is your income less your expenses as a percentage of your profit. So 25% margin, and $25,000. You need to sell $100,000 worth of product to get that $25,000 profit at the end of the day.
Yep.
Now, $100,000 sounds like a lot, but let's divide that into 50 weeks. So we're talking $2.5 grand a week.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And if we're talking, let's say, how many product? Well, let's say you've got a $50 product. Someone do the maths quickly on that for me.
20. So 15. I'll get my phone.
15 to 50 is 50, isn't it? For 50 products a week.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, I don't have my calculator on me. I still do need a calculator.
That's all right.
So-
They're accountant.
So 250 by what?
Divided by 50.
Yeah. 5.
5. There you go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close. Yeah.
So 5 products a week.
Yeah.
I hope that can be edited out. No, you're right. That's all you need to sell. So you chunk it down into smaller pieces. You make sure you don't go like 100,000 a year. How am I going to
No,
sell
but that's,
100,000?
I think that's key. Yeah. What you've done is you work backwards, but you've also chunked it down because as soon as you said 100,000, everyone goes, oh my God. Yeah. But you actually break it down and say, could I sell 5
$50 products a week.
Is that possible?
Well, one a business day.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Could I sell one product a day?
All right. That's awesome.
So that's and that's what you're testing. So you don't know that when you start, but you know that if you do sell that product at that price, at that cost, you're going to make an extra 25 grand a year, and then you test it.
So you've got Sarah who's earning 75 grand a year that's now got 100 grand a year, and that's life changing.
Yeah. That's amazing. Craig,
Well, that's 75 plus the 25, so 100 grand total.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
exactly. Yeah. Craig, we'll wrap up. Is there anything else you want to share that you think is relevant from your experience? If there's one other thing, and then where can people find you online? Where can they find you? And what's one other thing that you think is really relevant to the convo today that maybe you haven't shared?
Yeah, this is probably for those who are more advanced in business rather than starting out. Is I would say, as I said, I like to make myself redundant in business. I like to. Firstly, you need to learn the systems or put the system in place. So you need to understand your business first. As a business owner, when I start a business or I join a business, I want to do everything. I want to see everything. I want to know everything. I want to be in the details. And then I want to create a system around that business. And then I decide, can I use software to fix that problem, or do I need people? My preference is software. People are great, but software, you don't have to pay super on software.
Not yet.
Not yet. There you go. Software doesn't get sick. And don't get me wrong, I've had wonderful employees over the years. I've had some difficult ones too. But my preference is to put software in place first, and then get people to run those systems or that software that can't be replaced with systems. And then that's how you work your way out of business, is by following that process.
Yeah, because what you're saying is you might be excited packing the boxes today and shipping the product, but maybe as you start to do more and more and more, that actually takes you away from the more important things, and then you might lose love of, you know, packing those boxes. And so starting to think about how to create a system that does that for you.
Yeah.
So that you're doing the more important things.
Correct.
And getting trapped in the things that were exciting one day, but the next day they're just destroying your soul.
Yeah, and I haven't packed an order in years in the business, because we have a warehouse. I'm in Perth, but we have a warehouse in Brisbane that does all the pick, pack, and sending of the orders for me. So that's something I did early on in the business. I did pick and send all the orders myself for the start, but once I could see that we were scaling, I outsourced it to what's called a 3PL, a warehouse that does all the pick, pack, and sending for us. And so that all happens automatically now.
If anyone has any questions or wants to get a little bit deeper on, you know, where they are in their business, what handle do you have, or how can they get in contact with you, mate?
On Instagram, at Craig Anderson Official, and the new website launching very soon, thegrowthcfo.com.au.
Very cool.
Thanks for joining us, making the time,
Yeah, thanks, guys.
sharing the tactics.
Granular. I liked it.
Yeah, we're getting into the weeds, I think, and the plan here is we want to have conversations with real people for real parts of business that relate to everybody on the other side of that camera. So thanks for making the time to share.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.